Hello, everybody, and welcome to our partner showcase, PixBlaster, Enhancing Braille and Graphics, TSS 8.1. As you guys are coming into our webinar, we would love to learn a little bit about you. So we're going to launch a poll, and you can tell us about where you're coming from today and about who you are. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about some ground rules that we have for today's webinar. So the first is please type your questions in the chat. There will be no ACV REP credits for this partner showcase, and closed captioning is going to be available. We will be dropping a link in the chat for that. So I would love to introduce today our partner showcase, Dan Gardner, who started as a CEO of ViewPlus in 2015, joining his parents and founders of ViewPlus, John and Carolyn Gardner. He received his BS in electrical engineering from the University of California, San Diego. He has a wide variety of experience in engineering, management, finance, and business strategy. By working collaboratively around the world, ViewPlus is asserting itself to improve opportunities in education and employment for blind and visually impaired students and professionals. While there is still much work to be done, the successful management transition to a second generation means ViewPlus can continue helping make information accessible to all. Dan lives in Corvallis, Oregon with his wife, Susanna, and their 2 children. Susanna joined ViewPlus shortly after Dan, and both kids occasionally work there as well. While those closest to him claim he works all the time, Dan enjoys traveling, hiking, and all kinds of sports. So Dan, as you get started, I know you're going to ATIA in just a little bit over a week. Can you tell us a little bit about this and also about where you're going to be this fall?
Yeah, thanks, Amanda. Yeah, we'll definitely be at ATIA. So our whole team with all of our stuff. So it's a great showcase if you haven't been able to touch, feel, hear any of our software, hardware products. Great time to come visit. We will also be giving away our new, I'll tell a bit more later about our new inclusive coloring books. So we'll be giving away a coupon code that you can get. And so order while you're there, and so it'll be waiting for you when you get back. If you aren't going to be at ATIA, don't worry, we're going to be all over the world. Me personally, I'll be in California for CSUN and also for the California Transcribers Conference, as well as Texas for Texas AER and TTAP. In Germany, if you're in Europe, it will be in Germany in May for Site City. Plus, Defina, many of you may know her. She's traveling to all the AER shows. So it's a great time to come and visit us or let us know where you are. Or if you're ever in Oregon, come by Corvallis for a tour.
Awesome. So I'm going to share some of the results from our polls so you guys can know where some of your fellow attendees are coming from. So we have about 30% of, or 20% of you guys joining us from the Northeast, about 27% from the Southeast, and 9% from the Northwest, 18% from the Southwest, 22% from the Midwest, and we have 2% from a US territory and 2% from internationally. Thank you for joining us today. We're very excited to have all of you guys. And another really cool thing is that we're joined by 33% of TVIs, so teachers of the visually impaired, O&M instructors, and we also have some assistive technology specialists on here, as well as braille transcribers and rehabilitation professionals. And lastly, Dan, something great you would want to know is that it's kind of 50-50 for people using PixBlaster to create braille and tactile graphics. So 48% said yes and 52% said no.
So Dan, there's some opportunity out there to sway some people today.
All right. Well, you could always use more than one, right? So ready for me to share my screen?
Sure.
Absolutely.
Okay. Oops. Sure. Okay. Should be seeing it now.
Yep, we can see it.
All right. Well, thanks everyone for coming in. It's 103 people online right now, looks like. And to see what's new in TSS 8.1. And thanks to APH for hosting a partner showcase. Yeah, my name's Dan Gardner, and I am CEO of ViewPlus. I guess short story for those of you that don't know. I mean, the pictures here show me in front of a pile of PixBlasters. I think we were first shipping our first shipments out. We were all packing them up ourselves, so that's why I'm kind of looking a little sweaty. And then my wife and my parents are in the other picture, because really, I mean, it all dates back to more than 26 years ago when ViewPlus was launched, but really dates back to 1988 when my father was a physicist at Oregon State University, and went in for an eye operation and came out completely blind. And so out of necessity, ViewPlus was formed after a series of research projects and grants to develop a technology to make graphics that would be accessible to blind people. So that's been kind of the starting point of ViewPlus, and transforming this whole industry. Back in 2015, I joined, as Amanda said in the introduction, and with my wife, as my parents were needing some help, and it seemed like the right time to do that. So we've been definitely moving things forward with the launch of the PowerDot technology, which is powering the PixBlaster. And we don't just build hardware solutions. As you today, we're talking about Tiger Software Suite, or TSS, but we've been committed to this, to the blind and visually impaired community since the beginning, right? I mean, dating way back, right? ViewPlus founded the initial LibLouis invention. So now the open source software that everyone's using, the initial tables all say copyright ViewPlus, right? So we gave them to the community, so we didn't do anything with the copyright, but that ViewPlus saw that as a requirement for getting where we wanted to go. And so we continue to look for ways to innovate and provide ways to knock down barriers to education and employment opportunities for blind and visually impaired individuals. Let's see, got too many windows popping up. There we go. So of the inventions, I mean, so showing just some of the latest things here of, whether in the PixBlaster you don't have ink overlay, but showing on the screen here is the hot air balloon, where on the right-hand side of the screen, you'll see the balloon in the multi-dot height that we've always had, right, to represent different colors. But you can see the intensity of color isn't always give you as much contrast as you'd want. And then we've introduced, kind of during COVID time, the ability to automatically map textures to the colors. So we provide some libraries, you can make your own. I have a whole webinar talking about this, but really, again, if you need additional contrast and automating it, this is something that is extremely useful in cases. And other times, you just want to use the normal grayscale or just even line art. But even if you're doing line art, you can see the innovation here on the right hand side is showing for our original Tiger technology, which is this fixed 20 DPI, where you get kind of like chunky looking graphics. I mean, squares and rectangles are fine, but circles and diagonals look a little chunky. On the right hand side, the same thing redrawn with the Tiger Plus technology, which is inside the PixBlaster, which allows us to do 20 or 100 DPI within dot placement. So you get nice clean circles, nice clean diagonals, clean arrowheads, triangles, things like that you may have noticed if you have been a ViewPlus user for a long time. If you've just been a PixBlaster user, well, great, you've been taking advantage of this from the very beginning. We continue to make different improvements as well. So our latest product, which I'm kind of skipping over in this one, is the Rogue, and where we have actually even another round of kind of merging the Tiger and the Tiger Plus technologies into one unit. So if you haven't seen the Rogue, come see us at ATIA and you can see what the Rogue can do.
So Dan, before you go any further, just for clarification, because I think, again, the half of the audience is not using the PixBlaster technology. Maybe they're using TSS technology, but basically here what you're trying to say is that the multi-dot height and ink overlay technologies are something that's been a part of the natural order of things for ViewPlus really since the beginning, correct? We're not
Since the
talking about
beginning.
anything new right now. What you're doing, what we're just trying to say is this is who we are. This is where we've been for quite some time going back, but
Well, we
20
continue to
years.
improve it. Yeah, we
Yeah.
continue to improve it. So I mean, we have the all-in-ones, if you know the Spot Dot or our other products, again, can see all those or on our website or whatever. But yeah, trying to focus on the PixBlaster. I mean, the PixBlaster is a tractor feed unit, so it's hard. Because we've really been spending a lot of time on developing more, the all-in-ones, and it being pretty expensive with the ink included. So we have the Delta, which is the cut sheet version of what the PixBlaster does, like at our Columbia. Where you can do 2-pass printing on your standard laser printer and drives the cost down quite a bit. So trying to come up with this sort of, if you want it well, as we'll see coming in on the next slide, talking about inclusive is just tactile is great if you're talking about accessible, but trying to collaborate with people that may not know Braille, may not know tactographics, it's nice to have both. And so that's something we continue to strive for. And we will be showing a brand new product at ATIA that we haven't announced yet. So yeah, so come by the booth or stay tuned and we'll do a webinar after we get back from ATIA. Yeah, this is the innovation, like say, moving from accessible to inclusive. I didn't understand the difference until we really launched the coloring book project. It started with one, and then it took a little longer to do the first one, but then since then we've been getting one every month or so. So we just released during the holidays, the winter holidays coloring book. And again, these are, if you have a PixBlaster or you have a ViewPlus printer, they're available as Word document to print on your printer, for free from our website. You can download them. If you'd rather purchase a nice, fully colorized with ink and text and Braille and tactile, right? We have those available to order from our website as well. And if you come to ATIA, we'll be giving away coupons to get free coloring books. So come by. Yeah, they're definitely important. We're also been experimenting with the role of how we could use AI for either rendering graphics, but even just storytelling. We've had some great stories where people have made custom stories for their kids using ChatGPT to tell a story about bullying or whatever that was relative to, with a few prompts, and then take that text, put it in, translate it to Braille, and then you have a storybook that can be custom made for your blind students. Let's see. So about APH and ViewPlus together. I mean, ViewPlus was founded in Corvallis, Oregon, as I said, back in 1996. And we're building on this technology to create tactographics, continuing to innovate and evolve. That's where the Power Dot Braille has come from, where we moved from our more graphics focused dot to then a Braille dot, rounded Braille dot. We still see the benefit of having both and even mixing them. But really we partnered with APH with the PixBlaster, because at that point, we had a product that was ready for the mainstream, because it, again, does the the Braille the way people want it, with also doing tactographics and everything. Then we've been around long enough, everything's been stable, and it's been a great relationship since 2020. This has allowed so many more people to get access to this through the quota system. It's been great to see, and it's really helping to then give what we'd say is sort of the middle of the road, right? This is what people, air quotes, think of a Braille embosser, but it happens to also do really great tactographics. And we have individual machines below this and professional machines up above that. So it's really been helping cover a big portion of the market. And again, the relationship has been great between, just with things like this to get the word out, and also to really see the importance of having more blind users using this has really helped. APH has really driven us to be more focused on that than just say TVIs, and seeing the power of self-learning inside the blind student community has been rewarding. So that's kind of something too. It's like, if you already have a PixBlaster, but only one, if you let your students have access to this, you'll be amazed, just like they are with the 3D printers and other things, what they'll come up with and create. So You can never have too many PixBlasters, and there's plenty in stock. If you check the web this morning, it said 124 in stock. So if you've got spare quota dollars, please. Here, a lot of people talk about ViewPlus, Tiger interchangeably, or they say they have a Tiger. Tiger is actually the name of the technology. So the tactile image and graphics embosser. So that's really what, so we used to call everything Tiger Max, Tiger Pro, Tiger something. So a lot of people say they just have a Tiger, but there's a model number after that. We kind of relegated it to just like the Tiger software suite and the software pieces. But so if you're confused by ViewPlus versus Tiger, hopefully this clears it. Oh, so.
Awesome. So we have come across our first poll question. So our first poll question is true or false. You can only create braille and tactile graphics from Tiger software suite with your PixBlaster. And I'm going to launch that right now. So feel free to go ahead and answer.
All right, so to this point, we haven't had any questions drop into the chat. Dan, you're going to tell us whether or not that answer is true or false coming up. I did take a moment to drop into the chat the link for the coloring book content that you guys have available so that people can download that. Also, as folks are responding to this question, again, I want to encourage you to let us know where you're traveling. We did hear about the Aloha Braille event that's going on in Cherokee, North Carolina. So this is an opportunity for those of you who are out there that are doing or hosting events. Feel free to take an opportunity to share information in the chat about events that you're doing about Braille literacy, about anything that you're doing in terms of training for transcription, etc., into the chat so others can see what you guys are up to. All right, so Amanda, how are we doing on responses?
Sure. So we have 72% participation within the poll, and so 18% said true and 82% said false.
Okay, cool. The correct answer is false. So for those of you that answered true, then hopefully this will help to show you that, yeah, I mean, the thing of what we've always tried to do is make things as open as possible. So really this sets up any of our products, any of our embossers set up like a printer. So if you can print from the software, you can then emboss. So for us, Braille is a font, and we rasterize any graphics to do the multi-dot height automatically in our full featured printer driver. So sounds complicated, but what it does is we do the complicated part, so you don't have to. And we'll show. I mean, I know a lot of people are using things like CorelDRAW or Adobe Illustrator if they're a graphic artist, if they're using, if you're more like me and more artist averse, then things like Word work, or even Paint can work. So we'll show some of these things as we go on. Yeah, I did notice in the chat that there is some conversations going on. Yeah, I forget too. I'm doing a workshop at the Aloha Braille Retreat as well as the as well as at the California Transcriber Conference. So we're doing some more some workshops as well, some longer sessions, because it's hard to get this all out in like 1 hour. Hard to get it all out in 3 hours. So when we do hands-on, we usually end up doing a 1 or 2 day session to really cover everything. So again, I already covered most of this. So the Power Dot is inside the PixBlaster. So if you see all our marketing around Power Dot, that is included in the PixBlaster, as well as the Columbia and the Delta. And then the other ones that we also make are the Irie AT Braille Track and Braille Sheet as well. So we do end up private labeling within certain different markets. So if you see Power Dot, it's us, or you see Tiger, it's us. So talking about the Tiger software suite, for those of you that are brand new to it, TSS, Tiger software suite, it's really three main things. It's an add-in for Microsoft Word and Excel to allow text to Braille conversion, document formatting stuff. Tiger Designer is a standalone program. that you can either use as a all-in-one editing system, or as I use it a lot for fixing up things. If you don't like the automation inside the printer driver, you can go in and move dots around if you want to, or tweak things. So Tiger Designer is there as part of it. We do a lot also just you can get for free and try. So like the Tiger software suite is available for 30-day free demo if you don't have it. If you purchase any of our products, including the PixBlaster, you do get a copy of TSS, a perpetual license with that. So if you haven't requested your license with your PixBlaster, make sure to do that. And I'll provide the links later. It's just ViewPlus/APH or viewplus.com/APH. And you can request a TSS license for your PixBlaster. In case you missed it, we did talk about in TSS 7, we added some highly sought after features, which is the Quick Paw, which is 6-key, 8-key entry for direct braille entry on any Windows program, as well as a complete overhaul of our standalone translators. If you're just doing labels inside of CorelDRAW or something, you don't need to run a full braille translation software. We have just a standalone clipboard translator to cut and paste text to braille back and forth. We've also supporting in Tiger Designer importing PDFs specifically to support the TGIL, the Tactile Graphics Image Library from APH, and continuing to make improvements there. And user selectable contraction tables for grade 2, learning grade 2 UEB. And then showed the tactile image, the tactile fill pattern area for colors, and some other improvements to the menu bar. So specifically from 8.0 to 8.1, so we rev the number after the decimal point when we incorporate a new libLouis library. So this is using the 3.26, which again, every single time there's either languages added for international languages added, or overhaul of UEB, or something major to what we want to move and get these things on the latest version. So we do have the latest libLouis at the time was 3.26, and then we also introduced our new Braille 36 fonts back in 8.0, but we've added now the SimBraille dots. So for proofreading, you can see in the picture here, you now can see on the screen the empty spots. And so as I finally went through the full UEB training modules on UEB Online, it made proofreading so much easier. So we really promoted this part. It will not show up when you emboss them, but it does make it really helpful on the screen. And for any international visitors, there are now up to 69 total Braille languages available within TSS. And continuing to add more as libLouis adds them. The big change under the hood for us may not seem huge, but we were always downgrading to doc to get all the formatting right, especially if you're using the interline text showing here. So now we've done it to where it's using the full docx, which is the current format for Word. Really just what it means is that if you have another standard form file, you're moving stuff back and forth, it's a lot smoother in moving the formatting back and forth. So it's just made it a lot easier to work across different formats. And then there's some Tiger Designer improvements and bug fixes. So Tiger Designer, again, a lot of these TSS 8 ones, we have videos. I will share a link when I get to this slide. I have some slides at the end, but a lot of the stuff you can see online in quick videos. But the idea being that if you have Tiger Designer, now when you go to File Open, you can see, is this showing up? Is Tiger Designer showing up on the screen?
Yeah, I see.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this Capitol Hill is one I downloaded from the TGIL. And so if you have it set to PDF as opposed to the other Tiger Designer formats, you can open it up, and it's a 2-page document. You've got both pages, and here you can choose, like, so for the PixBlaster, when you use the Tiger Plus setting, it's either emboss only, or if you want to do print and then see the print layer as well. But if emboss only, Tiger Plus, It recognizes the fonts. You can then, the standard is the smooth outlines with the multi-dot height fill if you just want to do outlines, whatever. So just going to keep the default, and we'll read in, and then you'll see it'll then correctly bring in the braille. So when braille is seen, when you see braille in the blue dots, that it means that it is correctly on a braille layer and separated from the graphics. A lot of times when you print PDFs, they'll get all messed up because Adobe Acrobat tends to embed all the fonts, and so then it just sends graphical information of the glyphs of the fonts to the printer. So that's where we ended up doing it this way, as a way to just quickly do this within Tiger Designer, as well as the braille there. And again, there's some nice tools if you want to know what this says. You can select the braille. And you select the object, then it'll do sort of backwards OCR on it and show you the either ASCII or the braille font. But again, if you're not a dot reader, it's handy to have it the ASCII format sometimes. And again, so if you need to make small tweaks, that's what's nice about this. So if you want to edit the document and move some lines around, or remove some lines, or remove some dots, you can do all that stuff inside of Tiger Designer now. So it's that's pretty handy. I will show another example of how to do this later. But that's Tiger Designer. Oops, I'm sorry, I'm flying around.
All right, awesome. We've come to our second poll question, and it is true or false. Tactile graphic image library, TGIL files can only be printed from Adobe Acrobat Reader. And I will go ahead and launch the poll right now.
All right, Daniel. So we've had a couple of things pop into the chat as we're asking this question in the audience. So the first question is one of the audience members asked if Tiger Software Suite can be accessed from multiple computers. In other words, if they're loaning out their PixBlaster, and that PixBlaster arrives for a school to use for maybe a trial period, is it possible for that school district to be able to download and access Tiger Software Suite to use as they trial it? Kind of a...
Yeah, it's a good question. Yeah, I mean, the VP license manager, you can activate, deactivate online. So I don't show all my license numbers, but yeah, so you can activate, deactivate. It can be running on two computers simultaneously. But again, if you have people that are doing it, you can get in there and deactivate the license or activate the license, so you can control it. So it can be running on two computers simultaneously. The perpetual license you get has 2 seats. We also offer, you can purchase additional seats, or even annual licenses are all available to purchase. And so, no, a lot of times you maybe have 10 people that want to use it or something. So been doing a lot more with those. So those, Tiger Software Suite is sold. You get one. And if you're lending it, yeah, you can work with the license manager, how it works, or if you need help and deactivating someone that's returned it, forgot to deactivate it, we can deactivate it for you here. So
Dan, is that something where we would be able to get with Jim Kreiner and the customer experience team to kind of talk through that process of using that license management tool, maybe create like a how-to with that, and then share with this particular group of individuals? Is that...
There's a bunch in there already. Yeah, the getting started stuff already talks about this, because that's probably one of the biggest things, is just licensing the software. And the biggest thing I think we see is that most people that get the PixBlaster don't realize that they need to request a license. It doesn't come from APH because there was no way to, but if you go to the ViewPlus or from the PixBlaster page, there's requesting the licenses on the page, but all that stuff's here in the FAQs. But it's really going to take you to the viewplus.com/APH thing. Here, I can put that in the chat. And this is where you can request, if you get multiple PixBlasters, we put in a form so you can get all of them at once, but we just need the PixBlaster serial number, and then we can issue a license. And if someone asks one that's already been issued, then that's when we can work with our support team, can work with you to activate it, because getting to a license server, it doesn't take us long, so we just do it. It would be faster, I guess, to go directly to us.
Okay.
And so it would just be essentially passing the ticket on. So either way, you can, APH will just pass it on to us. They know what to do, the support team there. So
Okay.
we work very closely with them.
All right. So for the audience, one of the things that we'll do is sort of summarize what Dan said, and as we follow up with you on this webinar, we'll include that in our follow-up for you. And then there's a question here that says, then can we buy Tiger Software Suite with quota funds? The answer to that question is no. Is that okay?
Not that I know. We just added. I mean, I don't know what quota fund limits are, but yeah, we just some of these things we never think of. We did add. Now maintenance and repairs are covered under quota funds for PixBlaster. That was something in the last month that has been added by request.
Got it. Okay. So
I don't know what we have to do. I don't know what we'd have to do to request to get the software.
All right. So before we get to Amanda and the results of that ask and that question, then we also had an individual sort of ask about whether or not we would be going into detail, for instance, about how to label, for instance, a graphic with Braille. And I'm not sure that I think you showed a little bit of that a moment ago. And I know we're going to kind of focus on what's new and some things like that. I did drop a link into the chat for the VP Web Clinic webinars on your YouTube site. And my question is, are you familiar? Are you so familiar with that you would be able to answer the question that the how-to on labeling graphics with Braille is going to be in there? Or I know Defina's on this call. Could somebody drop into the chat for Jennifer any one of probably multiple videos that you've created on how to do that specific action?
Yeah, I mean, so TSS 8 here I'm showing on the screen, the creating tactile graphics for TSS 8 is one way. I mean, again, it also depends on use what you know, right? I mean, so you can put Braille labels on in Tiger Designer. You can put Braille labels on inside of Word. You could do Braille labels inside CorelDRAW. You can do it inside of Excel. You can do it inside of basically any drawing tool that supports fonts. You can do that. So so it's pretty straightforward, and it just depends. So again, I could show it a million different ways, but that's where sort of the Web Clinic series is focused on, stepping through those basics.
Yep.
Or that's what we'll be doing at the like the workshop at CPBV, or any one of, again, I can always do it too. You can always reach me here on viewplus.com under contact demo with Dan. You can directly book 30-minute demo right on our website with me or with Lloyd, and we can show you exactly, tell us what tools you're using, show us what you want to see. We can jump through that in a few minutes and show you exactly. I mean, again, the problem is we have so many different ways to do it. We're agnostic to what tools you're using. So it's more, what do you know, and how can we jump through it from that, get you there quickly from wherever you're starting from. So that's the challenge.
So we have 110 people on this webinar right now. All right. You have the click demo with Dan, click demo with Lloyd. I think we should have a contest to see over the course of the next 24 hours, who gets more demo requests. Is it Dan or is it Lloyd? Okay.
Well, Lloyd has a lot more time open on his calendar than I do. So because this goes to my Outlook calendar.
Excuses, Dan. All right. I'm sorry. Let's continue on. Amanda, what do the results of that poll look like?
Sure. So just to remind everybody of the question again, true or false, tactile graphic images library files can only be printed from Adobe Acrobat Reader. And 7% said true and 93% said false.
Yeah, so since people want to see stuff, I mean, one of the best examples I had was like that same capital thing. Inside of Word, right? Standard Word, you can open PDF files. So if I go and open that downloaded Capitol Hill, it does some questions and blah, blah, blah. But sure enough, right, it brings in, maybe you get a little bit of pagination, maybe you want to, it moves some of the stuff onto one page, got to fix it. But you get the Braille in there and it's in a text box, you can edit it. You can use the tools inside of Tiger Designer to show it as ASCII text if you want, to show it as Braille dots. You know, this is running Braille 29, size 29. If you want to use the new Sim Braille dots, you can go in and use the replace inside a Word. Again, this is why you use what you know. But under advanced replace, you can change the font. So I tried this before. So Braille 29. So I was in China over the holidays and or in early December, and so now I have I had to install. Oops. So anyway, you can replace the fonts to the new one.
What are you doing on screen, Dan?
I'm replacing the Braille 36, Braille 29 with the Braille 36. I'm trying to. Nice thing about doing demos live. Remembering how to spell the font. So this would then replace everything. So then you'll get this, you get the Sim Braille fonts. Oh, I only had this thing selected. If you select the whole document, it does the whole thing. But you can then see the difference between the Braille, they will render the same. The Braille 36 is actually redesigned to be more portable. Braille 29 works great on Windows, but it kind of had some spacing issues on Mac and Linux boxes. So again, Braille 36 makes your document more portable, and also then has the new Sim Braille type doc on it. So and if you want to move lines around, that's a nice thing. These are all editable now that they come into Word. So this is something that's pretty handy. If you don't know drawing tools, you can also open this up in CorelDRAW. A lot of these PDFs were created for the TGIL with CorelDRAW. So the PDFs open up very well in CorelDRAW too. So if you want to use parts of this or modify it, again, use what you know and what tools you have. And then you can do this. And this is showing Braille labels, right? These are just text boxes. If you want to add another Braille label, as the person said, insert a text box, then you have to have some text that you want to be using. So I don't know if we want to grab some text. You can then put this into a Braille translation tool or any of the numerous free websites. One of the ones I use all the time is abcbraille.com. So then you can get a translation. But since we're talking about TSS, with TSS, if I can find the mouse, you get the standalone translator. If I can figure out what screen it went to, there we go. On this one, if I want to use English Unified grade 2, and I have on the clipboard what I just pasted, if I want to have that just translate clipboard text, and then it puts it there, the Braille dots are ASCII, and then this is now on the clipboard. So if I go back to the Word document, if I insert a text box, I can paste the Braille right in there. So that's how you would add a label. And again, knowing if you want to remove the square around it, again, formatting the text box. So again, everything has its subtleties, but in general, it's if you know how to use any tool, this can get you what you need quickly, and then this will print. And this is where I also usually show too. We talked about trying to squeeze everything into one. If you don't have a PixBlaster or you don't have it at your office, you can set up a virtual PixBlaster by, again, on the YouTube videos, there's a one for installing a virtual printer. So in this case, I don't have a PixBlaster hooked up, but I did install one.
Dan, as you're going through this, and this is actually a question, Shanna asked a question that I was wondering too, and that is, did you originally open that file, that PDF file in Word? That's a PDF file that you opened up directly into Word. Is that correct?
Correct.
And that's part of the TGIL.
Yep. Yeah,
Okay.
there's capital. It's the capital one in Monument.
Okay. And again, one of the things that you were pointing out is a new feature of TSS 8 is that 36-point font, and being able then to be able to do a select all on all of your text boxes and move your 29 to 36-point font to get a more readable dot for your audience. Is that right?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, it also makes it a little bit more portable. If you want to send that Word document over to someone with a Mac, then it should look, the fonts we're seeing some spacing problems on Mac. So, but that capital one is just this. I just downloaded this PDF from the TGIL and then opened it up either in Tiger Designer or inside of Word. So, or inside it actually opens up well in CorelDRAW. I was running CorelDRAW, and that's kind of where I guess, depending on what you're using, and maybe parts of it do well. If you're great, if you love CorelDRAW for doing the graphics, but you'd love to merge them together into Word, that's also something that's possible. So there's some great macros that people have developed for CorelDRAW that, again, now if you want to, use a macro to build a Braille clock, trying to wait for CorelDRAW to open up. Where to go? So if you're, running something in CorelDRAW and you have the tactile macros that, I think these are all will then generate BANA compliant type things from the typographic standards. Where to go? I'm trying to figure out where the macros do. I have too many windows open now. So if you created the Braille clock in the macro, which was typing in a few things, and you get a nice compliant Braille clock, then you can save this as a PDF out of CorelDRAW and do the same thing. Open it up in Word, and if you want to move things around or edit it, or just embed it in another document to using the text flowing around it, or however you want to do it, right? I mean, there's a lot of people, just do assembly with either Braille 2000 or Duxbury or whatever tools they're using, and we're not saying you can't use any of those, right? All of those will work, and all of them have their strengths depending on what you're doing, more Braille versus more tactographics. And also, the macros are great for a lot of common things to quickly create things, but then you don't want to necessarily just have them embedded inside of CorelDRAW. You want to share them as a PDF. So this is something too. If you go to the National Braille Association, we also do workshops there talking, and there's a lot of people that do these macros around, and I think also that Aloha Braille will be doing that at their retreat as well as at the California Transcriber Conference, because I'm definitely not a CorelDRAW expert, as you can tell.
Dan, David Eckhart asked the question, and I think this is a question. The Braille 36 font still follows 40 cell 25 line format, question mark.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, it's the same. I mean, the Braille 29, like you had the Braille, the swell 24, right? Because it swells up, but the Braille 29, it will fill the same number of cells as 36. There was just some different kerning settings inside of it, which is Braille talk for like the spacings that made it. Anyway, they look the same. They looked the same until we added the SimBraille dots, but we just found that the Braille 36 was much more portable across outside of Windows.
Okay. Just the time check, Dan, we got about 15 minutes.
So we'll be showing the color wheels. I'll skip over this because but Again, these are available with PixBlaster in 8.1. You wouldn't get the top picture, but you would get the bottom where you could map the colors directly to textures, and you can make your own textures. And we've been modifying these with feedback. I started with this RBY. The VP7 is using more BANA compliant textures. And then the VP12 is trying to figure out how you can mix 12 textures inside of one document to try to make them differentiable. So we're continuing to play with textures and push the envelope there. There's a video on this, the UAB contraction tables. This has been also requested. You can enable, disable as you want certain contractions or all contractions and just turn them on one at a time. There are some interactions and so advanced things too that you can do because again, these are using editable LibLouis tables. So I actually learned from Willow's presentation at the National Braille Association editing Braille tables. So you can overcome some limitations and make your own custom contraction tables by hand if the graphical interface here doesn't give you everything that you want. So I did want to show this one quickly because this one's pretty handy if you have BRF files. I know we're a lot of us are working on the new eBraille standard to help make things more portable internationally, but if you have BRF files, a lot of times they're just text and you want to see what they're going to look like and kind of a pain. So within TSS 8, we added this apply Braille template piece that really helps to import. If you have TSS set up the way you like it, which again, the big thing, TSS, if you have TSS installed, you have a tiger menu inside of Word. Inside a tiger menu, you have profiles. Inside profiles, you can set your settings the way you like them so that you can set whether, or you can have multiple settings for different people or different embossers or different agencies, whatever. You can name them however you want. In this case, my webinar one, I have UEB grade 2. I'm using Nemeth for math. I don't have ink turned on because there's no ink on the PixBlaster. I want to do standard letter size paper and then the advanced settings. Your advanced formatting, if you want to, again, match your agency requirements or banner requirements, you can set up your settings here. All those things happen, but really this is handy because this page layout and settings is handy if you want to then bring in a BRF file. So, because if I open a BRF file, it's just an ugly, text document, so it doesn't come in with any standard settings. So taking the quick start guide, Word defaults to letter size paper and you get this kind of clunky looking thing that isn't very pretty. But if I want to go into here and just want to apply the Braille template for my PixBlaster, since this was set up for PixBlaster, so it's in wide format, I can just apply the template and it will adjust the paper size, adjust my margins, do everything I have set up for the way I like to use it in TSS and apply it to the BRF file so that you can then see the nice formatting with the page numbers at the bottom and everything comes in really cleanly. So again, this is very handy if you have some old BRF files that you want to use and or edit and or convert or whatever, because again, you can also overlay this with our 6-key entry tool, QuickPaw. If you know what Braille you want and it's not getting there, you can edit it, or you can edit it as ASCII if you, again, work that way. So again, we're trying to make it as showing a lot of stuff, but trying to make it as flexible to meet your workflow as possible, as well as because we know you're not going to be using just one tool. So we're trying to support all the different standards, all the different agencies, all the different organizations, and make it so that everything will work together. That's our goal.
So again, just a quick recap there again is that those BRF settings are created or set up in one of your Tiger profiles, and a new function of 8.1 is that button that will allow you then to apply those settings that you've created to a BRF file that you've opened up in Microsoft Word.
Correct.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yeah, because normally you'd have to do it, but there's a lot of subtleties inside of like paragraph settings because Word defaults for the cited stuff, right? The default templates are all like 1.08 line spacing, other weird things that are in there to make it look better. but they screw up the braille spacings. And so again, the braille templates, we simplify all that. We do all that already as part of just taking text to braille in the first place. In the case you already, so that would be translate document or translate selection. If it already is braille, you don't want to retranslate it. So you just want to apply the braille settings essentially. And so it applies the braille font and applies the settings so the spacings are all correct to fit your 40 and whatever,
All right, another time check. We got about 8 minutes.
Yep. Yeah, well, it's good. There's questions coming in as we go. So there is, so for those of you that are interested in upgrading the TSS 8.1, we have offered as a special option for PixBlaster owners to request the upgrade, which was on that website I showed, the ViewPlus APH one. You can request a free upgrade if you got 7. If you have 8 already, just download 8.1. But if you had 7, if you got 7 with your PixBlaster from 2 years ago, you can request an 8 upgrade. The 8 upgrade license works with 8.1 as well. So you don't need to request a new upgrade. If you're already running 8, just download 8.1. So you can purchase additional upgrades. If you have other licenses that you have from TSS 5 or 6 or whatever, you can buy upgrades for $395, or you can always have the latest one with the annual subscription of $195 a year. PixBlaster is available. It comes with the Tiger software suite. It also comes with the Pixie, which is our Tiger box is a Wi-Fi enabled braille, gives you, mobile printing as well as text to braille on the fly and things like that. So there's a lot more information on the PixBlaster website if you're interested in those things. But again, available on quota funds or for cash through APH. And they're in stock. Here's your final poll question.
Alrighty, we have gotten to our last poll question, which is where can I request the free update to TSS 8.1 if I have a PixBlaster? Select all that apply. And I will go ahead and launch that poll right now.
So Alex is asking a question about warranty that comes with the PixBlaster. Can you clarify the number of years on the warranty, Dan?
Yeah, PixBlaster comes with a 1-year parts and labor, but we do offer extended up to 5 years. So it would include annual maintenance. So again, you can find out details on the ViewPlus/APH page. And also, like I mentioned earlier, now repairs, if you're outside of warranty, you can do repairs through APH using quota funds. And that's been effective for about a month.
And did you say you had dropped into the chat the link to request the update earlier?
Yeah, it's the ViewPlus APH page.
Okay. All right. I don't see any other questions currently in the chat. I think we did a pretty good job of keeping up to date with that. So if you're out there and you have questions for Dan, now is a chance to drop them in the chat. Amanda, do you want to give everybody the review with everybody what everybody's response was there?
Sure. So we will go over the question again, which is where can I request the free upgrade to TSS 8.1 if I have a PixBlaster? Select all that apply. And 90% of people said ViewPlus, 73% said APH, 6% also said Microsoft, and 3% said Apple.
So Microsoft and Apple are not correct.
We did partner with Microsoft. We're on the accessibility partner Microsoft, and we do work with some people at Apple, but no, they wouldn't know what that means. Our whole industry, I think, is a small fry for the big behemoths. But yeah, and again, we already showed the book demo with Dan or with Lloyd, our website, my email. I'm on social media somewhat, but I try to avoid it. So emails I do respond to. There are some really useful things too, in terms of, we already showed a lot of these, like the ViewPlus product page for the TSS product page, the what's new in TSS 8. There's a bunch of stuff there. That video page that showed all those things, as well as you go direct to our YouTube channel. There's other playlists and other little how-to things all over the place there, to try to give you little quick things like how to make a thermometer and things like that are on there. But if you don't see something, or you just want some one-on-one time, yeah, just reach out to us. So.
Excellent. Well, we want to thank everybody for coming today to our partner showcase. Dan, thank you so much for helping to host this as well. And we hope you guys have some warm weather with you and a good rest of your week.
Yeah, since we're the only ones here in the building in Corral, the only ones moving around town in Corral, the whole town is shut down with ice storm. So my wife and I braved it to come in here for all of you, for the viewing audience.
Yeah, I'm in Georgia and it's absolutely freezing here. So I'm hoping the weather gets a little bit warmer too.
So yeah, so stay
Awesome.
safe, and otherwise, yeah, we'll see you in sunny Florida next week.
Yep, we hope to see you guys at ATIA. See you guys later. Bye.
Thanks, Dan.
Thanks.